In this tutorial, we'll show you the solution for the lab exercise 2 of week 14 about how to implement exceptions for a small application. So just let me remind you about the problem we are trying to solve. So a person has a first name, a weight, has a first name, a weight in kilograms, and a height in meters. And a person collector has a collection of persons, and you can either add a person into the person collector by passing three parameters: the first name, the weight, and the height, rather than passing a person objects. And second thing is you can say I would like to return the BMI of a particular person identified by a name. So if the name is not there, that should be considered as an error. So it will be considered as an error if either you attempt to add a person, but the person already exists in the collector, or symmetrically, it would be also considered as an error if you try to return a BMI of a non-existing person. So that's something we have to implement by using exceptions in Java. So we're going to translate the problem into classes and exceptions in Java. And we're going to create subclasses of exceptions, so they will be forced to check by following the catch or specify requirements as we discussed in the lecture. And we're going to define a class called PersonCollector tester, and then we're going to let the user enter a command, add person, get BMI, or exit. And we can assume that the user always type a valid command, so we don't have to do any error checking on that. And if the user add a person and get a BMI, we have to also be careful with the kind of error that might occur in the command. And also the user type exit, then we should be exit from the loop. So let's try to do that in Eclipse. So if you launch your Eclipse, we're going to create a new project for that particular exercise. So we're going to create for lab exercise 2, week 14. So go to File, let me just maximize my window. So File, New, and Java Projects. And we'll go for CSE114, week 14, and lab exercise 2. If you do that, so now, first of all, let's just go back to our problem statement. We're going to follow line by line. First of all, a person has a first name, has a weight, and has a height. Okay. First of all, we're going to create a new class called person. New class person. Okay, so we're going to do the following. So maximize this. So the person has a first name. So a first name should be of type string. Okay, and also a person has a weight. So let's put a weight into double type. And also a person has a height. Okay, so let's say when we want to initialize a person, we can just pass all the three parameters. So person has a constructor here, and it's going to have matching types, first name, and also double weights, and also double heights. So now we're going to use this keyword to disambiguate. First name is equal to assigned to first name, and also this dot weights is equal to weights. Let's see why this is not going to. Okay, there's a typo here, so that should be first name. Okay, and also we got this dot height is equal to height. Okay, that is a very easy class to make. And now we have a person collector. A person collector has a collection of persons. Let's make that class first. So if you go back to the package explorer here, and then we're going to create under this package here, and then we'll do a person collector class. Okay, if you do that, so now a person collector has a collection of person. So we have an array of person objects. Let's call that person. And also we have a counter to keep track of how many persons we have. So number of persons. And when we initialize a person collector, we're going to initialize the array. So we're going to say persons equal to new person. And now let's say maximum 10 persons in the collector, let's say. And also, you can also initialize the integer to be 0, but it's not necessary because the default value for the integer will be 0 anyway. And we have a add person method here. But remember we said we're going to add a person via their first name, weight, and height. So that means you shouldn't actually just put a person here. Okay, what you should do is to pass 3 parameters, like what's said in the problem statement here: first name, weight, and height. So I'm going to do the following. So I'm going to give 3 parameters rather than 1. String, first name, and then double weights and double heights. Okay, let's do that. And now, how do we add a person into it? Typically, we actually say, for example, you would say persons, and at number of persons is assigned to some p person, right? But now we're going to create a p first. So you can say person p is equal to new person, and you can simply pass first name, weight, and heights. Okay, and also we have to increment the counter. Okay, I think there was one method I forgot to define, which is to get a BMI of a particular person. So we can calculate a BMI of a particular person here. So it will simply be weight divided by height squared. So you can return weight divided by height times height for this particular person. Okay, since they are both double values, so this will actually give you the double division rather than integer division. Okay, so now we can add a person here, and also we can also return the BMI of the person identified by a name. So how do we do that? So we can do the following. So we can say this. So we can return the BMI of a particular person. So we're gonna say, what about just get BMI? BMI of a particular person identified by their first name, as you can see from the problem statement here. Okay, return the BMI of the person identified by a name. Okay, so I can just say name rather than first name, doesn't matter. Okay, so now let's say the BMI I'm going to return would be simply this. So I can say double BMI to return, let's say just -1. So that's completely invalid. So in case the person is not there, we're going to return -1. Okay, return BMI. And now, how do we figure out the BMI? So we're going to run the for loop, integer I equals 0, I less than number of persons, I plus plus. And then we're going to find a matching person, the person with the matching first name. So I'm going to say, if the persons we are looking at has the first name that matches the name we're looking for, then we're going to get a BMI of that particular person. So we'll say BMI equals that particular person's I dot get BMI. Okay, that's what we'll do. So now return the BMI. So of course this BMI here might be -1. Let's say if you run a loop, but you never actually found the matching person, the person with the matching first name. That means the person is not there. Though that should be considered as an error. Okay, that's something we'll do in a moment. Okay, so now let's handle these 2 errors here. So we're going to implement the errors as exceptions in Java. So first of all, it is considered as an error if you attempt to add a person whose first name already exists in the collector. Okay, how do we do that? So now if you go to your package explorer, so we're going to create new exception class. So we're going to go for new class, and then let's say name already exists, exception. And the superclass is going to be exception. Okay, let's do that. So now we just have to declare the constructor here. So name already exists. Oh, sorry, that's not the one. Let me just copy the name over here. Name already exists, the exception. Take a string, and then we just call the version from the superclass, the exception. Okay. So another error that we might have is it will also be considered as an error if you attempt to return a BMI of a person whose name does not exist. So that's another error. So we can just go back to Package Explorer here and then just create another kind of error. Class here, and then you can say name not found or name not exists. Doesn't matter. Name not found exception. Similarly, the superclass is going to be exception. And we're going to do the constructor again. So name not found exception. I'm going to make it public, but for the purpose of this course, you don't have to know about public. That's fine. String s over here, so it was called a super version here. Okay, name not found exception. Okay, so now we got two exception classes. So now we're going to do the following. So now, in case of the add person, so we might throw, so we say throws as part of the signature. Well, let's change a new line. You might throw the name already exists exception. Okay, so when should we throw that? What you should do is you're going to check to see if the person is really there. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is do the following. So now we're gonna do this. So we're gonna say Boolean person exists is equal to false. Okay, we haven't found a person yet, but let's see if we will find it. Integer I equals 0, I less than the number of persons I plus plus. And then we're going to do the following. We're going to find out if the current persons we are looking at has the first name that matches the name we are looking for, the first name that we are trying to create the person out of, then that means the person exists. Should be equal to true. In that case, so outside the loop, we have already decided if the person really exists. So now, if the person actually exists in the collection, so we're gonna throw a new name already exists exception here. So you can say name already exists. Okay. Otherwise, we can actually try to add a new person. So we're just gonna cut and paste the code into here. Okay, over here. Okay, that's how we do it. So the key thing is you're gonna need a Boolean variable here, and then check to see if the person really exists in the collection. After that, based on the result you have explored, you can actually see if you want to throw the exception or not. Okay, so let's see. Forgot a semicolon here. Okay, so now for get BMI, so we got another kind of error. In the case where the person you're looking for to get a BMI from does not exist. So you can say throws name not found exception here. Okay, so now when should we throw it? So now again, we're actually going to get another Boolean variable here. Kind of similar idea here. Okay, Boolean. Okay, let's say we still initialize our BMI to be -1. The Boolean person exists. And now, if we manage to find the person there, so we can set the person exists to be true. Okay, so now we can say if not the case, the person exists, then we cannot return any BMI because the person is not there. Okay, that means we have scanned through the array without setting the person exists to true. Okay, that means we're gonna throw new name not found exception. So we can say named not found. Okay, so if the name does exist, then we can return a BMI. Okay, and need a semicolon here. Okay, that's how we do it. So one exercise for you, as we discussed in the class, you can see lots of similarity between this block of code and this block of code. How can you actually somehow factor out these two? So these two blocks of code seem to duplicate with each other. So what you need to do is somehow to factor this out into a separate routine that might just check to see what's the index of the name that you're looking for. If the index happens to be -1, then that means the name is not there. If that happens to be 0 or larger, that means the name is there. Okay, I'll leave that as an exercise for you. Really important to complete it yourself. Very similar to what we discussed in the class. Okay. Okay, so now we are done. So what we have done is we actually created two exception clauses. Name already exists and also name not found. So two exceptions. Because both exception clauses are the direct subclasses of the exception. So that means they have to follow the catch or specify requirements. Whenever you're using the methods that might throw such kind of exception, they must be either specified or they have to be caught using a try and catch block. Okay. So now for the add person here, we might throw the name already exists exception. And for the get BMI, we might throw the name not found exception. So now we're going to move on to the PersonCollector tester class. Okay. So now let's go back to the package explorer here. And now let's go to create a new class. So we're going to say PersonCollector tester. Okay, and now we're going to create a main method here. Okay, so now we're going to actually prompt it, actually let the user to actually keep entering the command. So we can say, let's just have a Boolean variable here. Okay, we can say user wants to continue. So let's initially that's simply true. As soon as the user wants to exit, we'll set this Boolean flag to be false. Okay. So while the user wants to continue, we're going to continue and stay in the while loop. And then here, we can also declare a scanner outside the loop, so we can use it inside the loop. Scanner, and then input new equals scanner, and then system.in. Okay, I just need a new keyword to create a new objects. Okay, so now we're gonna say system.out.println. So we can say enter a command. So it can be either at person get BMI or exit. Okay, so now we're gonna read in the command. So string command is equal to input dot next line. Okay, so we're gonna read the command, and now we're gonna distinguish between the cases. If we can assume it's always gonna be either add person, get BMI, or exit. Let's assume that's the case. Okay. So if the command happens to be add person, then we're going to add a person into the PersonCollector. Then we're going to do that in a moment. Else if the command happens to be get BMI, then we're going to get a BMI by calling the appropriate method in PersonCollector. Otherwise, because we assume that the user is going to enter either add person, get BMI, or exit. Okay, so this must be the case of exit. Okay, in this case, we're gonna simply just set user wants to continue to be false. Once we do that, we're going to make this condition here false, which means the state condition will be false, and that will actually cause us to exit from the while loop. Okay, in which case we should also print by. So here it would say by. Okay. So now, in the case we want to add a person, so actually we need some PersonCollector objects. So now, a very important thing for you to think about. If I declare the PersonCollector here, let's say PC is equal to new, as you can see, initialize an empty PersonCollector. So if I say PersonCollector PC is equal to new PersonCollector here, if I simply say this, okay, you have to know why this line, I shouldn't put the PersonCollector initialization here. It is actually wrong. Okay, I'll leave that to you as an exercise. You must know why. Okay, you might be testing on this in the exam. Okay, what you should do is to do it outside the loop. Okay, if you do it outside the loop, then now you actually got some empty person collector here. So now, if you say, so in case we need to add a person, so we're gonna ask the user to actually, we're gonna prompt the user further for person's name, weights, and heights. So we're gonna say system.out.println. Okay, we can say enter a name, and now string name is equal to input dot next line. Okay, and system.out.println. Okay, we can say enter a weights and in kilograms, and we can say simply double. Let's say double, and then we can say weights equals input dot next double. Okay, so now we can just also consume the new line character as we said in the assignments. And then we can say input dot read next line. Okay, and similarly, we're gonna prompt the user for a height. Enter a height in meters. So now we're gonna say height is equal to the next double, and also we consume the new characters. Okay, it's just Java tricks actually, and we have seen that actually in both assignments, so you should be familiar with that. So now, given the name, given the weights, and given the height, so now we can actually create a person object accordingly. So person P is equal to new. Oh, actually, we don't need that because remember, in the person collector class, to add a person, we have to pass 3 arguments here: first name, weights, and heights. So we're gonna do that. So go back to person tester here. We're gonna do pc.add person. And then we're gonna say first name, so just name, and weights and heights. Okay, so it's gonna be weights and heights. Let's see what's going on here. But somehow you see what the problem is. It says unhandled exception type name already exists exception. Okay, you should know why it is the case, right? If you go back to the add person method there, you will see that add person here throws name already exists exception. And name already exists exception actually is, let me just go there, and name already exists exception here actually is a direct subclass of the exception. So you must follow the catch or specify requirements. That is why this wouldn't compile. You must know the reason for that. Okay, so that's something we should handle, but let me do that in a moment. Okay, so now in the case of the get BMI, we're going to prompt the user for a new for a name to get a BMI from. Okay, and then we can say double BMI is equal to pc.getBMI, and then the name. As you can see, again, we got a similar compile time error. You can see here, unhandled exception type name not found exception for the similar reason. Okay, that's something you should really figure that out yourself. Okay, so now let's say this. After we add a person here, so we can actually try to print out the contents of the collector. So I will do the exception handling in a moment. So that's something I'm going to do for you. If you go to person collector here, so let's say we want to print out the contents of the person collector. So what you can do is you can, first of all, let's just define a toString method for the person. You can say string to string. We're going to redefine, override it from the object class, right? So we're going to return the following. So we're going to return first name, okay, with weights plus and heights. Okay, with weights here, kilograms, and heights 2 plus here, kilograms, and heights meters. Okay, that's what we can do for the toString method for a person. Okay, let me see what's going on here. Okay, so you just have to declare public. Okay, so you say we redefine the toString method. So now we can actually reuse the toString method in the person level in the PersonCollector level. So now we say public toString here, and now we can simply do a string builder. String builder. Actually, string builder or string buffer doesn't matter. So let's just say string buffer here. As we said before, string buffer is equal to new string buffer. Okay, so we're gonna return sb dot toString. Okay, so now this is going to return a string. So now we're going to do the following. So we're simply going to go over the collector. Okay, I less than the number of persons, I plus plus. And now we're gonna do actually simply sb dot append, and then just call the toString method on each of the persons, right? Dot toString. That's something you should really know from the previous lab session. And then we're going to separate each line by a new line character. Okay, that's the escape sequence for new line. Okay, let's go back to the PersonCollector tester here. So after we add a new person here, we're going to print out the contents of the book, the collection. Okay, so you can say system.out.println. Okay, we'll simply just print it out. So we can say PersonCollector dot toString. Okay, that's what we do. So now let's see how we can handle the exception. Okay, so you can actually do try and catch block. So there are two options for you. You can either wrap this block here, everything, because that will include the usage of add person and get BMI. You can wrap these two. You can wrap this whole block here into a try and catch block, or you can just wrap this one into a try and catch block and wrap this one into a try and catch block. It's up to you. Okay, let me do this one. So you can say try. I'm gonna try this line here. Okay, so I'm gonna try this and catch. And I'm gonna catch the name already exists exception. You can say system.out.println. Okay, what you can say is the name already exists. Try again. Okay, so now in the case where the exception does not occur, that means we'll go smoothly to the next line. So that means we'll simply just print this out. Okay, that's how you do it. Okay, similarly, we're gonna do another try and catch. So we're gonna try this. Okay, if this succeeds, and we're gonna print out system.out.println. We can say BMI of the name. Okay, put a space. And here we're gonna put the BMI. Okay, and we're gonna try this because this this line here might throw an exception. So that's why we have to catch that. Make sure you catch the right type of exception. So now it will be name not found exception here. So I'm gonna copy this line here and modify that a little bit. Named not found. Try again. Okay, that's how you do it. Let's just try to see if this will run properly. Okay, it's now run it. So let me just maximize the console here. So let's say add person. Okay, let's say Jim. Over here, let's say 85 kilograms, and let's say 1.8 meters. Okay, so now you can see now in the
Let me check on that. Okay, I found something on the web.
So now you can see that so we have only one person in the PersonCollector, just Jim. So you can see this is actually from the toString method of the PersonCollector. Okay, let me add another one. So let's say add person here, add a name. Let's say Daniel. Okay, let's say for the weights, what about simply just 54? And then heights, maybe 1.65. 3, for example. And now you can see now we got 2 persons in the person collector. We got Jim and we got Danielle actually in the person collector. Okay, let's say we want to get a BMI. If I say, first of all, let's say add a person. So let's say I want to add Jim. And also add Jim, let's say a different Jim, for example. Let's say 80 and then 1.75. In this case, it will tell me name already exists. Try again. So this means this actually comes from the try and catch block we had. Otherwise, if we didn't have the try and catch block, the exception would have been thrown to the console directly. That's not what we want, because we want to give user another chance to enter another name. Okay, let's try another error case. Let's say we want to get a BMI. So let's say I want to get a BMI for Jonathan. Okay, in this case, Jonathan is not found. Again, this actually comes from the try and catch block. Okay, so this one does work. So let's get BMI of a person that exists. What about Danielle? In this case, yep, it does find Danielle. So according to her weights and heights, so that's her BMI over here. Okay, so let's say finally we would like to exit from the application. So it's being exit, it's been terminated, and now we say bye. Okay, so this exercise here, please study that carefully, and it'll be very useful for preparing your final exam. Okay, best of luck.